Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, January 31st, 2019. Oh, 2020.
2020.
I sound like Barbara Walters. This is 2020.
A roll call for today. We have Commissioner Villegas, Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner James, and Commissioner Caloza. President James, you do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Engineering.
We've got Julie Allen, and somebody will come around and turn that on. Ms. Ostrander.
Oh, sorry. Good morning, Pamela Ostrander, Streets LA.
Good morning, Eddie Chavez, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Seffi Wiles, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. I'm going to do this standing up for today. President James, we did receive 2 speaker cards under general public comment. We also do not have any commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We did receive speaker cards on all items for today's agenda. In addition to that, we did receive 1 email from item number 1 that has been distributed to all commissioners.
Okay, we will close the Neighborhood Council category of commentary. Agenda item number 6, status update on Cooper and Brain franchise ordinance insurance compliance, the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety. On agenda item number 6, let me just see what's, one moment, Ms. Blyther, let me see what speaker cards I've got. Mr. Sachs, do you have a card in on number 6? Why don't we start with you? So it looks like we're going to start with Dr. Williams then. Go ahead, Dr. Williams.
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community. We were formed about 10 years ago because of oil and gas wells in Culver City and the Inglewood oil field. Compliance is mandatory. We had a problem, the world's largest gas blowout in the Alicio Canyon gas storage facility, which was because they falsified records and submitted them to the state, and the county didn't care. Does the city care about compliance? Insurance is a very valuable thing. During the period of non-compliance with their insurance requirements, were there any leaks? I would highly recommend that for compliance on all oil pipelines, maybe even gas pipelines, that they do an annual inspection to show that they have had no leaks during the period that they had no insurance to protect me and others. So I'd highly recommend that you have more than just compliance with the insurance requirements, but compliance with the threat that the insurance requirements supposedly covers. Did they have any spills during their non-compliance period? Because I'm concerned that I've been in the oil and gas industry for a long time. And if it leaked during the period that they had no insurance, guess what? We'll have to cover it. If they have another leak and we have a problem, the insurance in the future may have to cover not only what they have spilt in the past, but also what they will spill in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. And the only reason I hesitated is because item number 5 is you're hearing an ordinance about imposing a monetary penalty against Cooper and Brain for a second offense, and yet you want to do number 6 first, which is an update on their status.
It's one of the benefits of being the chair, sir, but go ahead.
I'm sorry?
It's one of the benefits of being the chair of the meeting. I get to decide which order we're going to go in, but go ahead.
That's fine. I was just wondering, since the city is investing in so much data, is there a data system available that would show the number of franchise pipelines throughout the city, where they're located, so that the neighborhood councils and the people that live in the neighborhoods could have an idea of what exactly is running underneath their homes and the streets that they live on? Because, you know, these pipelines run the breadth of the whole width and the breadth of the city, and they don't just end on the city borders, which is also important. And is there also data that would show that whoever owns these pipelines is also up to date with their insurance compliance, because nobody really seems to know about that either until it's too late. That would be helpful for people who live in a neighborhood. Maybe they would be able to have somebody elected that would look into that kind of thing. It's a lot of money here that we're talking about. They should be, and maybe even update the ordinances to reflect the amount of money that it would cost if a blowout occurred, so that you're more heavily insured in case something goes wrong. I don't know if they've had an update on any of these ordinances that would require insurance compliance that have been heard by any council, commission, or any board that works for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Ms. Blyther on number 6. So, Erica, I called this, I wanted to get an update prior to the time that I called number 5, which is the action item. So if you could let us know where we are on this, then I'll call number 5, which is the action item that enables us to take a vote. Go ahead.
Certainly. Good morning, Commissioners and Department Representatives. I'm Erica Blyther, the Acting Petroleum Administrator, and I'm providing the update for this item. So on June 8th, 2017, the City of Los Angeles renewed its pipeline franchise ordinance number 184956 with Cooper and Brain Incorporated. The ordinance became effective July 17, 2017, and the renewal contained standard provisions, including Section 5.2 of the franchise ordinance, which requires the franchisee to obtain, at its own costs, certain coverage, including $25 million of sudden and gradual pollution prevention. It's called the pollution liability insurance. So in April of 2018, Public Works had 42 non-compliant franchisees. There were some bankruptcies, and there are now 40 franchisees. Of the 40, 38 or 95% are in compliance. And this franchisee is one of the 2 that is not carrying the adequate insurance of $25 million for sudden and gradual pollution prevention. And it's creating a risk for the citizens of Los Angeles. Despite a first fine of $10,000 being levied on Cooper and Brain in the last 12 months on April 26 of 2019 for failure to provide the insurance, Cooper and Brain has yet to comply with that requirement. This fine was paid on May 2nd, 2019. At the last Public Works meeting on this item on December 13, 2019, Jeff Cooper attended along with the representative from Risk Management, Alan Tan. At that meeting, Board of Public Works decided to give a 45-day continuance or additional time for Cooper and Brain to work with Risk Management to obtain the adequate insurance and continue this item until today. The document that you should have for you is the latest Certificate of Liability Insurance from January 13th of 2020. And this comes from Risk Management's Quick Comply Insurance Tracking System. And it shows that Cooper and Brain has yet to provide evidence of adequate sudden and gradual pollution prevention insurance and has been out of compliance since July 17th of 2017. Due to this, the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration Safety requests that the Board of Public Works find Cooper and Brain in continued violation of its franchise ordinance and authorize Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Safety to issue the $25,000 fine for this continued violation. And this fine is for public safety and to ensure that the citizens are protected from catastrophic events such as earthquakes or explosions and cumulative effects such as small insidious leaks from aging pipelines. Fines are one of the few tools that we have to ensure compliance. I'd also like to point out that this office has finite resources and that there's been an excessive amount spent on this franchisee. Alan Tan is here today from Risk Management. I believe Ms. Jeff Cooper is here from Cooper and Brain also.
Right, well, we'll call on Mr. Cooper during the next hearing, which is our action item, our voting item on this, Ms. Blythe. The one thing that I wanted to confirm with you as we wrap up the oral report and then we move into number 5 is really just the timeline. You had indicated that Cooper and Brain has been out of compliance since July 17th of 2017. That's correct, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we've had a number of hearings with them. I not only agree with your statement about the number of resources that it's taken your office to provide attention to this entity, but we've had numerous hearings at the Board of Public Works taking up the collective time, not just of us, but of the city. And they've come in time after time after time saying just a little more time, just a little more time. And we have yielded to that. We have given them that additional time over and over again. There was, if you look at the first continuance, the first most recent continuance was November when we continued it to the December date.
Yes.
Then we had the December 3rd, that was November 25th. Then we had the December 13th date where we offered them the 45 days up until today's date to get the insurance, and we had confirmed with our risk management division in the CAO's office that they were working to help Cooper and Brain through the process. Now we're here on January 31. I really thought when we granted the continuance last time that that was going to be it, that they were going to be able to comply. And now you've provided the update that they haven't. The one thing that I want to put on the record before we move on to number 5 for this oral report is our collective intent last time, as I recall it, and my colleagues can certainly speak for themselves, but our collective intent was rather than have this entity spend money on a fine, give them the opportunity to spend that money on finding the insurance that everyone wants them to have. And we're still not there. So we did clearly indicate that that the continuance to January 31 would be the last hearing on this. So we'll call agenda item number 5 and hear from Cooper and Brain's representative. But I am completely in agreement with your assessment of the amount of time and resources it's not only taken your office, but our board and our time and the time through all these meetings to get nowhere. And while we have really done everything we can to avoid finding this company, and I don't see another choice. So with that, the oral report on number 6 will be received. Thank you for the update and for your continued work on this. On agenda item, I'll go ahead and call agenda item number 5 from the Office of Petroleum Natural Gas Administration. Hearing ordinance number 184956, request to impose a second monetary penalty against Cooper and Brain for non-compliance of insurance requirements. This is the second offense. Recommending that the board first find that Cooper and Brain Incorporated was already fined $10,000 for the first violation within the last 12 months. Secondly, find that Cooper and Brain remains in violation of Section 5.2 insurance requirements of the franchise ordinance number 184956. Third, approve the monetary penalty assessed to Cooper and Brain in the amount of $25,000 for failure to comply with Section 5.2, the insurance requirement of their franchise ordinance. And four, direct the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety to issue a violation to Cooper and Brain for failure to comply with Section 5.2 of the franchise ordinance number 184956. On number 5, Mr. Sachs. No.
Thank you. So from my understanding, they were out of compliance with this ordinance in 2017. When did they receive the opportunity to have this ordinance? When did they first acquire the ordinance to run this pipeline? That's even more important because you would think that when they applied to run this ordinance, they would have the insurance in place to run the ordinance. But evidently, and I'm just looking out for the public here in a sense, they haven't had insurance since 2017. At least, did they pay the $10,000? That was the first fine. And since this is a second fine, now they owe $35,000, maybe. I don't know. So it's important actually to find out when they actually started. They received when this ordinance or this company was considered for this pipeline, and why or why not they didn't have insurance when they were considered. That's really important. That's the meat of this whole, that's the meat and potatoes of this item as I see it. The fining, that's up to you. And what would happen if they don't pay the fine? Will they be debarred from having this pipeline? What's the penalty other than a monetary penalty? They are making money running something through their pipeline. There is some financial gain to the company. They're just not paying the city.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Dr. Williams.
Dr. Tom Williams, my first oil well was in 1958, 2 months on it. Made a lot of money, except that I saw how dangerous it was. I would highly recommend that rather than putting in more penalties, which will eventually drive them to declaring bankruptcy, and you get nothing, I would highly recommend that as part of the penalty, they have immediate closure of all pumping through the pipeline. Thereby, you have some power over them. Having a fine is irrelevant. They only keep enough assets in their coffers to pay maybe 2 months' rent and salaries. They can declare bankruptcy virtually any time and form a new company next week and buy the assets of the bankrupt company. Hey, standard policy for at least 50 years that I know of in oil and gas. That's why the majors got out of all production and pipelines. So I'd highly recommend that you include within the increased penalty immediate closure. If I am driving on the streets of LA without insurance, can somebody stop me from driving? Yeah, because it's required. If it's required of me driving a car, isn't it required of somebody pumping oil through a pipeline? I would highly recommend, again, yeah, increase the fine, don't expect to get it, and have immediate closure of all operations until they provide the insurance, not just the penalty, but the insurances. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. On agenda item number 5, Ms. Blyther, before I call up Mr. Cooper, anything to add regarding number 5 that we haven't already discussed? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Cooper. Sir, how much time do you need? You know, we don't put a time limit, as you've heard me say before, I believe, on our real parties in interest, but I would like to get an estimate of how much time you would need to let us know your update.
Not that long. I'm not that long-winded.
Okay, less than 5 minutes?
Oh, definitely.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, all right. I think you'd be pleased to hear that. Good morning. I'm Jeff Cooper with Cooper and Brain. Been up here before. Just remind you, we're a family-run oil company. We've been in business in the city of Los Angeles, over 50, 60 years. We operate wells throughout the city. This one happens to be in the Rosecrans field we're talking about. We also have some stuff in Wilmington. In general, we always like to point out that when we shut off oil in California, that oil is replaced by imported oil that comes into our ports here on the tankers. And associated with that is also the jobs that are in our community. The human rights records of the places that this imported oil is from might not be the best, as well as their environmental records. One of the reasons California can be proud is because of the tight environmental regulations they have on industry, and I think this is one of the issues here. I wanted to point out we do have got a certificate of insurance here. We do have coverages. We have coverage for everything that the city has asked for, except the one component of the pollution coverage. We have sudden and accidental. We're just talking about a gradual component. The last time I was here, I shared documentation from a state-certified pipeline testing company. Those tests were done the first part of October that demonstrated line integrity. So I'm not sure when gradual comes into place, but we know on October the line passed muster. We have a insurance broker that we've entrusted to insure us, to find us coverages that we want for ourselves and different regulatory agencies. We've worked with him for over 20 years. And this has been a frustration for me, obviously, and a frustration for him as well, finding this particular component to cover us with. he, frankly, I think is at the last month he's at wit's ends. We applied for another company. It didn't have the word. He gave it to some sort of attorney that looks at coverage guarantees, and it wasn't something he felt he could sign for what you guys were looking for. I didn't know until yesterday. I called up Tamara to tell me, Martin in the administrative office, what was going on. Maybe some cross wires, and she told me about a resource I could check to see about others who had the coverages. And I just wanted to let you know, thanks to her, I did reach out to one of the brokers yesterday, and short notice, I don't know if she read, but I can show you that I got an email here from her. She's in meetings in Arizona, so we couldn't talk about what's going on. But this is somebody that's, frankly, it's probably somebody I'd make my number 2 choice if I was going to go look for insurance, because I know her. I'm on the board of directors for SIPA, and she was a board of directors too, and in fact, an honoree, but she's somebody that I wouldn't trust. Anyways, I reached out to her to see about finding this pollution coverage that you guys are requiring. And I think I emailed her response to Tamara just a little bit ago, and I told her that this morning too. We try our best to be good neighbors and good citizens and a good corporation. And everybody's here expressing their frustration. I'm just as frustrated. So I guess I'd like some more time now that at least I know where to find a list of these other brokers who have been able to place the coverages, and I can reach out to them and see what they got. Maybe my fault is for working with somebody that for 20 years, was always able to give us the product that we needed to satisfy everybody.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Blyther? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to Ms. Blyther. We've had how many others over these months, similarly situated companies, have been able to comply?
So we've had, of the 40, we've had 38 that are in compliance, and they were able to comply. I think there were about 5 who didn't comply in October of 2018. There was a big meeting where a number of them complied. Some complied that same day, but since that, there have only been 2 that haven't. So the vast majority, 95%, have been able to find insurance.
95%. All right. So, colleagues, and Mr. Cooper, I'm sorry that I don't have any more continuances of this that I would recommend. I recognize your company has been around a very long time, so I'm not concerned about the threat of bankruptcy that Dr. Williams put into the record. That said, we still would like to see you become compliant with the city's insurance requirements, but I'm moved by the compelling case made by Ms. Blyther that we have to represent our constituents as well here, and we have done more than accommodate this entity, Cooper and Brain, with continuance after continuance after continuance. I only have one more question for Mr. Tran from our risk management team. Just confirmation, sir. For the record, I mean, I know the answer, Ms. Blyther's made that clear, but I would like confirmation from your team that after the efforts that you have worked on with Cooper and Brain, they're still have not complied.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Davis?
Well, in terms of this issue, I think that we had some discussion in the prior hearing that's directly related to our status today, and that is, in fact, that obviously good brokers are hard to find, but you just have to pursue until you are able to get one that can perform. And so our hope, as you have said, Mr. President, is that in the future, he will continue to explore brokers and that activity will result in one who can get him the appropriate additional insurance that is missing. So with that, that's my hope.
Thank you, sir. No other lights on the queue. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 5. Seconded by Commissioner Caloza and Davis. Any objection? Without objection, that will be the order on number 5. Any issue sending number 5 forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. Thank you, everyone. On number 5, let's go to agenda item number 1. We have a number of speaker cards on number 1 as well. A tree removal, 7800 through 7900 block of South Sepulveda Boulevard, Council District 11, recommending that the board first find that the tree removal classifies as operation, repair, maintenance, or minor alteration of existing street, sidewalk, and gutter involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond that previously existing and does not involve the removal of a scenic resource. Secondly, that the action is exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 1, Category 3. These are existing facilities, sidewalk repair or maintenance of the City of Los Angeles Environmental Quality Act guidelines from 2002. And 3, that none of the exceptions to the use of a categorical exemption as set forth in Section 15300.2 of the state CEQA guidelines apply. Secondly, deny the request for a no-fee permit to remove 6 Indian laurel fig trees for sidewalk reconstruction. And third, approve the request for a no-fee tree removal permit for 9 trees, which includes 2 Indian laurel fig trees, 4 bottle brush trees, and 3 Brazilian pepper trees for sidewalk reconstruction and streetscape enhancement. Tree replacements are required. Mr. Banuelos, we will start with you to summarize what's going on. I recognize that we have an approval for the removal of 9 trees, the denial of a request for the removal of 6 ficus trees, and then reference in the board report to the position taken by the Streetscape Improvement Association for the reasons that they want to remove these additional trees, and we have their speaker cards here as well. So go ahead, sir.
Yes, good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bill Representatives, City Attorney, Dr. Campos. This is Hector Banuelos from the Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA, Urban Forestry Division. We have before us is a request from the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association to remove 9 trees, which include 4 bottle brush trees, 3 Brazilian peppers, and 2 Indian laurel fig trees for sidewalk repair and streetscape improvements along the corridor of Sepulveda Boulevard, which is the south entrance to the Los Angeles International Airport on the east side of Sepulveda Boulevard. The Westchester Streetscape Association, Improvement Association, represents the Westchester community, and they're requesting that the board approve the removal of all, there's 15 trees along the corridor, they're requesting to remove all 15 trees so that they continue the projects and mirror what they have already accomplished along the whole entire corridor of meandering sidewalks, new street trees, and landscaping. The Streets LA endeavors to preserve trees, mature trees whenever possible, and we have, the Streets LA determined that 6 of 8 Indian laurel fig trees can be retained in place by implementing alternative measures such as meandering the sidewalks. There's about 12 feet of city dedication along this corridor where the feasibility to meander the sidewalks does exist. Therefore, we're recommending that the board deny the request to remove the 6 large Indian laurel fig trees. However, we are requesting that the board approve the request to remove 9 trees for the sidewalk streetscape improvement project. There's 4 bottle trees that aren't providing much benefits. They're very poor condition. There's also 3 Brazilian pepper trees, which are not desirable species as well, in addition to the 2 Indian laurel fig trees. One is in decline, and the other is a few feet above grade and meandering the sidewalk. They would not be compliant with the American Disabilities Act. If approved, the applicant shall replace the trees 2-to-1 with 24-inch box-sized trees of the Chinese flame trees and the pink trumpet trees, which is consistent with along the corridor. The Council District 11 and the Community Forestry Advisory Committee and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment were informed of the tree removal permit request. Any questions?
No, not yet. Mr. Sachs on number 1. Mr. Sachs passes number 1. Ms. Scher on number 1.
live in Westchester, near Sepulveda. I'm a cyclist. I'm car-free. I appreciate the shade of the large trees. I opposed the removal of 52 trees 2 years ago, and I was unable to stop any tree felling. The trees were cut down, all of them very quickly. Replanting has not been done. I've gone through 2 very hot summers. Not only that, but on the east side, they ripped up the sidewalk. So they took the shade, they took the tree, they took the shade, and then they took the sidewalk. And there is, members of my community are very interested in finding out when this will actually be done, because we've been sitting with a ripped up sidewalk for almost 2 years. No trees planted. And I'm here to back up the staff recommendations, because they've taken the time, they've come out to the location, they're familiar with the project, and I trust their decision. I think they're very fair in how they've decided to deal with the tree issue. I'm a rare person. I am car-free. I travel by bicycle. I'm outside in the elements. Clear-cutting trees like this and planting spindly little trees is pure hell out there. We've had 2 of the hottest summers in history, and the trees are gone, and we're just oh, and I went to their board meeting to find out what the status was, but they take the Sepulveda streetscaping thing into private session. They changed the agenda at the meeting. I'm no longer welcome, so I don't go. But
Thank you, ma'am.
2 minutes.
Let's see, agenda item on number 1. I've got some cards from representatives from the Westchester Streetscape. Who wants to speak first? Okay. And so let me just let me try and organize this in a way that works. I've got 5 cards from you, and you're the applicant, correct? So you're a real party in interest, as I've described before. I know you all have been before us before. While I don't put a time limit on the presentation, I do want to maintain some order to it, so I'm concerned we have so many people speaking. So if folks are organized in their comments, that's fine, but what I want to avoid for everyone's time is people just repeating themselves. Great. Thank you. Mr. Rulon, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm John Rulon, President of the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association. I'm a resident of Westchester. This project has started quite some time ago in early 2000s. I want to give you a brief history. LADOT had planned to make Sepulveda Boulevard an 8-lane highway going to the airport. And the community got wind of it. There was a town hall meeting. About 800 people showed up at the junior high school, and LADOT made their presentation. We had a gentleman in the community that put together a presentation to how calm traffic and make it more pedestrian friendly. He made his presentation and got a standing ovation. Ruth Galander was our councilwoman at the time. She stopped the project. She formed a committee. We had to turn in resumes, and she selected the people on that committee. And that committee was assigned to work with her office, work with LADOT, and work with the community. And then she gave us funds to hire a design firm to work with us. That firm put together 3 community design workshops, and about 130 to 135 people showed up at each one of those. The first one was, what do you like, what don't you like about Sepulveda Boulevard? And the second one, they came back and said, this is what we heard you say, here's scheme A, B, and C. The community voted on the one that they wanted, and then they took that back and fine-tuned it and came back and said, this is what we're going to present to the city to put into construction drawings, and everybody approved that. Actually, this was a brochure that ended up, the date on this is 2008. So this project has been going on for a very, very long time. We're one of the front doors entrance into LA from the airport. First impressions count. And so I think we've done a major job. This section that we're here today is for the last section to complete the project. And we really like all the trees to be consistent throughout the area. And I think it would be a great mistake to leave those trees. People would think maybe the city ran out of money on the project, and we don't want that to happen. And we want a consistent thing. We have people now that walk up and down the street, which is something that never was happened before that. So,
Thank you, sir. Whoever's next?
Hello, Commissioners. David Zahn with Burns & Bouchard, but also a WISA board member, Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association board member. I have been a board member for several years now and have witnessed what I believe to be some very incredible improvements to the Westchester community as a result of WISA's work and WISA's work with the Business Improvement District and the broad-based community coalition in the community. We have replaced a large number of trees, as John indicated, over the past several years. And I don't know if any of you have driven to the airport from the north recently, but I believe that these improvements are huge. I mean, they've changed the way this community looks and functions in a way that I, in the 90s, could never have imagined, or even the early 2000s. So I wanted to first give you an idea of all the supporters that we have. And I have packets here for anyone who would like it of all of our letters of support, which I do not believe have been submitted to the file. We have the support of the Westchester Playa del Rey Neighborhood Council for the project. We have the support of the LAX.
And just so we're clear, Mr. Zahn.
Yes.
When you say you have the Westchester, you're going through these groups that support
Yes.
you. You mean for the removal of the additional 6 trees that you all are asking for that's pointed out in the board report, but that the Bureau's recommending denial of?
Correct. Of the 6 and the 9 that are being recommended approval. Correct. For all of the trees, which would make a holistic project as opposed to, a piecemeal
Please
process.
proceed.
Anyway, Westchester Playa del Rey Neighborhood Council supports all of the trees. LAX Coastal Chamber of Commerce supports all of the trees. YMCA supports the project. Westchester Lutheran Church and School supports the project. Covenant Presbyterian Church supports the project, and Jack Davis, a local resident, among others, support the project. We believe that the entirety of the project is the best way to move forward on this, and we really do recommend that you guys support both the 6 that are recommended for denial as well as the 9 that are recommended for approval. And we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding?
Good morning. I'm Van Harding, a member of the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association and a native to the Westchester community. We have gotten signatures for the people whose backyards back up to Sepulveda Boulevard and have been annoyed for many years over the trees going back into their backyard underground, and also destroying the sidewalks, destroying pipes, and so on. So we've obtained 23 signatures for this petition, which basically states they really liked what we've done so far, and they want this last block to continue the project by removing all of the trees, not just a few of the trees. So they want all of the trees removed, and they're very much praising what we have done. And not only these neighbors who back up specifically on this block, but the Westchester community, most of the comments we get are extremely positive and just praise and thank what we've done so far. So we're requesting a permit to remove all the trees. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Musella.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Barbara Musella. I, too, am a member of the board of Westchester Streetscapes and very proud of our project. If you drive to LAX down southbound on Sepulveda, you will see that it's quite a difference. We are for removing of the trees, and is in the chart that we passed out maybe perhaps a little bit earlier this morning. We have no matter what street or part of streets, blocks that we've done, we have passed out, or we have planted, replaced. If we take out a tree, it's at least a 2-to-1 ratio. And some of our numbers, it's actually 3-to-1. We would like to continue our project, so it looks, this is the last block along Sepulveda. We have gone from Manchester all the way to Howard Hughes Parkway, which is, although some of these are double blocks, it's at least 4 or 5 blocks, some of which are very long. Anyway, I hope you approve our project to remove all our trees, because we look forward to planting in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musella. And you are Mr. Duckworth.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for hearing us today. We've enjoyed coming down here all these years, and I think that the results on the street right now speak well for our relationship and the completion of the final phase of this project, which is what we're requesting today. To be very clear, all of the petitions, all of the community groups, all of the residents that live there whose backyards are being affected adversely by the ficus trees, as is the entire city of Los Angeles, are strongly in support of removing all of the ficus trees and continuing the landscape master plan that Mr. Rulin and the board of our community group developed years and years ago. We were working back then with your well-known and well-respected arborist, Greg Monfett. Greg Monfett agreed at the time that those trees had passed their life, were posed a danger, and could not be saved. And he issued an opinion at that time working for the city that the trees should be removed. He has subsequently, just recently, given us another written opinion that reaffirms that. And so we really think that the only way to proceed that's reasonable and makes good sense is to remove all the trees and continue the master plan, and we would ask your approval of that program today. I want to make, I guess, 2 other real quick points. One is that the WESA and the Westchester Town Center BID, Business Improvement District, have developed a long-term, sustainable master plan to maintain this area. So we have the yellow, I can't remember the yellow flower name, the yellow trees and the yellow plants and the trees, and they make a dramatic impact for the city of Los Angeles as an entry from Los Angeles International Airport. And to have one small section of the street stand out as an eyesore and a blip to that experience is just not proper in our estimation. And so we would ask for your support of that. But I don't know of any other place in the city of Los Angeles where a group has worked for so long and poured millions of dollars into replacing sidewalks and removing damaging, dangerous street trees, and then providing for the maintenance. I know of no other place in the city of Los Angeles that has done that to the extent that we have. And so, again, we really need to ask for your support so that we can finish this project. I'm happy to answer any questions or do anything that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Duckworth. Let me, and I know my colleagues may want to speak on this. You can have a seat, sir. If we need you, we'll call you up. I think I want to start, Mr. Benuelos, for you, but I may have questions for Mr. Jordan and Dr. Campos. Here's what my thought is on this. I'm just going to put it out there. Read the report. I've been in communications with Mr. Benuelos and the department director on this, and I'm familiar with the years of work of the applicant with the Board of Public Works and with the community, and I'm aware of the level of support that they have worked very hard to get. You've come in very organized in support of this tree removal, which is unusual when we're dealing with tree removals. But it's based on a track record of good work in this project. My concern in approving it today as is the following. We have right now, under the recommendations, a recommendation from the Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA, to approve the request for the removal of 9 trees, but deny the request for the removal of 6 trees, and that's why you all are here. Someone that may be here, someone that may have wanted to be here in opposition would look at this report and say, okay, Streets LA is recommending denial, so I'm not going to go speak to that because this removal request is going to be denied. So what my thought on this is, in order to provide everyone, including all of you, with the most complete record on this tree removal, is to put it over for 14 days and change the recommendation to include this possibility that the trees are going to be, that all the 6 remaining trees are also going to be removed. In other words, what I'm trying to say is I want to provide the best notice to the world of what this board is considering. And if we just consider it today, which we are, folks that may have an objection, and I don't think there are many, and if they are, I want to know their proximity to the community because you all have done incredible work with all the neighborhood councils and the people that represent this area. And so, but the way to have the tightest, for lack of a better term, the most complete record is to have given any organized opposition the opportunity to be here. And my concern is that the language in number 2 doesn't send up a red flag to anybody that we might want to hear from, or at least give the opportunity to not show up. And so that's why I would be inclined to put this over. My question, though, for Dr. Campos and Mr. Jordan is, how do we create that in a board report where I've got Streets LA with one recommendation and a separate recommendation from the chair for consideration at a public hearing? Because my recommendation is going to be, and I haven't heard from my colleagues yet, but my recommendation is going to be that we put on the table the possibility, and I know that that's already legally on the table now with the language that you've got. We have the authority today to grant the permit for all 15 trees. I just don't feel like we've given the community the best notice of a potential for that to occur. And I'm certainly willing to go there given the amount of support that we've heard and my familiarity with the project and the support it has in the community. But I want to give the best notice to folks that that's where this board might head. At least if my motion were to carry the day. Mr. Jordan.
I was going to let Fernando speak first. One idea would be to include on the agenda for notice purposes consideration of alternative, which would be to allow the project to go forward with the removal of the trees. So it's expressly stated that the board will be considering that alternative. It is something that you can do inherently by simply not accepting the recommendation. But as you pointed out, if your concern is that a member of the public who thought it was a done deal because they saw the recommendation, without realizing, of course, the board has discretion to just go ahead and put it squarely in the agenda notice that consideration of alternative, which would then put expressly what you already have the inherent power to do. That would be my recommendation.
I like that recommendation, Mr. Jordan. Thank you. Dr. Campos?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. In the notification, when we release our agenda, we could notify that the board will be considering an alternative under the recommendation number 2, and then we can notify everyone and put it on the agenda so that everyone has proper notice that this is what the board may consider. Another option that I thought about was just bifurcating this board report into 2 so that the board can make 2 separate decisions, one on the approval and one on the denial. On the denial, you can properly notice that there could be an alternative consideration. So it gets you to the same place as number 1, but it makes it very clear that we are talking about an approval and a denial.
So you're saying we could go ahead and vote on number 3, which is the approval of the 9 trees, and then have the second hearing on the 6 trees later.
Correct.
Yeah, I like a hybrid of the 2.
Yeah, and I
voting on the 9, having the 6 at the hearing in a couple of weeks and having the notice of a possible alternative consideration.
I would agree that that is a good recommendation.
Okay.
And then the third option was just to create a separate motion that stands by itself.
I like number two there with the hybrid approach. All right, thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, well, given all of the discussion here, I don't know how we got to this point in the very first place of not considering the trees there, given the fact that for years we've had an organized plan with the support of the City Council office, and invariably we probably had the support of our staff here in the city over time. So I don't know how the gap occurred, because if we look at this history and discussion over time about ficus trees, I mean, we all know what that discussion is. So I'm very curious as to why all of a sudden that when we look at this plan, an evaluation of who and what ficus trees are wasn't considered in the very first place. All of that said, I agree with everything that has been said here, and I would like to compliment the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association for their being very persistent and for their ability to follow through and to make sure that we do what we said we were going to do many years ago. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you. I know that we've gone through some process and so forth, and we probably have a direction, but I still have a question regarding some of the stuff that I read on the transmittals in the report. For instance, your email, Mr. Buñuelos, you said there's some plan for some of the trees that we want to save, right? And is there a way for us to fix the sidewalks? Because I believe that's what the main reason is. To fix the sidewalks without taking out the trees? Is there a possibility for that?
Yes, that's within the recommendations. The 6 trees that I identified to deny the request for removal permit, they can be retained if the sidewalk is meandered around the trees. There's plenty of room to meander the sidewalk around the trees.
And has that been explained to the group that wants to continue to remove the trees?
Yes.
And is there a reason why we're not accepting the recommendation on their side? And maybe they can answer me.
Mr. Duckworth.
Very simply, we've been working with an arborist from your staff in the past, Greg Monfett, and Greg's opinion was, at the time that he worked for the city, and still is, that those trees cannot be saved and they need to be removed. Recently, there's been a change, and we kind of get that, but we don't think a policy change about trying to save more trees, but these trees are not those trees. And so in Monfett's opinion, and we can certainly bring him back to the next hearing, and I'm sure he'll come with us, is that the trees can't be saved and shouldn't be. The question for us, we're a small community nonprofit. We raise money, I like to say, with chocolate chip sales. And so how would this board ask us to try to maintain sidewalks vis-a-vis the ficus damage on our budget when the city of Los Angeles, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, was not able to do that? We haven't done that. We've failed miserably. And our chocolate chip cookie sales can't keep up with the ficus trees. That's just it. I'm happy to answer any question I can.
So basically, it's your arborist against the recommendation of our chief arborist, right?
And our arborist was your arborist, your chief arborist for years, Greg Monfett.
Oh, right. So now we're here, right? So
Yes.
That was years ago, right?
Well,
Okay.
well, it's also now, right now, Greg just reissued a letter to us, an opinion, a professional arborist opinion that says that those trees are damaged, they've lived their lives, they cannot be maintained.
But thank you for that, Mr. Buñuelos, but our recommendation is not that. Based on yours and everybody else's from our staff, we have a way to probably save these trees, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I think I want to hear that. I'm in agreement with President James to kind of hold off this denial yet, because I want to hear more about the ways that we can save the trees. There is 6 really big, beautiful trees on there that provide shade as you walk, and if you remove them and we put new ones, we won't have shade for a couple of years. That's basically it, right? And you guys are okay with that? Your group is okay with that?
We've replaced the trees all along Sepulveda, miles and miles of Sepulveda, and over the course of the years of our program, all of the trees that we've planted have grown up and they provide wonderful shade. And they don't have the damages or the ongoing maintenance costs or danger posed by the ficus tree.
What size of tree are you thinking of replacing it with?
I think we usually use 24-inch box. There's never been any quibbling. If you look at the matrix that we distributed today, it shows that we have installed over 500 trees.
I saw it.
Despite the trees that we've taken out. Go to the back page at the bottom summary, and we have installed over 500 trees, new trees, in addition to the replacement. We are not an anti-tree group. We're a community beautification group.
Got it. No, I understand. Thank you for that. Okay, I think I wanna basically support what President James said, because I want to learn more about the trees and what we can do. So thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
I have a point of clarification. On these ficus trees, have they caused any damage to date, sidewalk repair damage, or that kind of thing?
Talking about the sidewalks where they're growing now?
Well, I'm talking about these extra trees that we're talking about. Have they caused any damage thus far?
Yes.
They have?
Yes, they have.
What kind of damage have they caused?
Well, the sidewalks are very displaced. But as I mentioned previously, there's about 12 feet of dedication where the sidewalks can meander around the trees. So the trees can be retained with minimal impact.
Got it. Thank you. And then our analysis is that we have ways in which we can save those trees.
Yes.
And we're going to save those trees to do what?
I'm sorry, what was the...
I said, why are we're saving the trees for?
Because for the environmental and aesthetic benefits that they provide.
The environmental what now?
And aesthetic benefits that they provide. They provide a lot of shade, provide a lot of habitat, provide a lot of stormwater mitigation. They're mature trees, very old mature trees, and healthy.
And how much damage have they caused?
It just, all the sidewalks are displaced around the trees currently.
Well,
I have one more question.
This is a very, very interesting situation here, given the facts as they are. And again, when we first started this project, we said that we were going to do certain things. We committed to it. The council offices supported it. I don't know where the council offices are today. I haven't heard. Where are the council offices on this?
I'm not sure.
Can you find out?
I guess I can.
Okay, we should know that, because what I do know is where the council offices were before when we started this project.
Last I spoke with one of the council deputies, I believe it was Mr. Tickle, I believe his name is, he was in support of our recommendations.
And what I also know is where our department is on ficus trees. In many similar cases in terms of damages that ficus trees have caused, and analysis, and every case is different. Every tub stands on its own bottom, and I realize that. But my general comment is that we recognize that we've had some very serious problems with ficus trees over time, and that sidewalk damage was one of them, and additional damages were a part of what we have discovered in other cases. And I know that that doesn't mean anything about this case directly, but what I'm saying to you is that there is some bifurcated analysis here that appears over time in terms of how we assess ficus trees, how we value, consider, look at deeply the damages that have been caused by them. And in this case, you've revealed to me that these ficus trees have caused some serious damages on sidewalk repairs. And yet we're saying we can save these trees. And then on many other cases, and I'm not saying those cases are directly related to this, but I just have to kind of recall it, that there are many cases where, and I'm sure the circumstances are different, but it's not going to stop me from saying this, which is this, that in some of those other cases we say, this ficus tree is causing damage. And as a result of that, these ficus trees have caused us a real adverse problem financially and otherwise in terms of property. So I'm just curious, as we look at this particular case, why it is there is a gap and a disconnect between what we promised that we would do in this overall plan over time in the Westchester area, because this is not our first day at the ranch, and working in the Westchester area around the corridor that the Streetscape Improvement Association is talking about. We go way back to when Ruth Galana was there. We don't know what the current council is doing on it, but we should know. And if we made a plan and an agreement over time that we would help the community to achieve a certain kind of environment, obviously we want to be a partner. And so I look forward to this extended time, and I hope that there will be some analysis that will include our prior commitment and that will include the environmental impact of these ficus trees, and also, most of all, focus on the adverse impact that they might be causing. So again, I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm looking at both sides of the equation here. Thank you. As I see it.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Cloza.
Thank you, President James. Thank you to the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association for being here today and for providing us with all these documents and organizing your community to show us what this project means to you. I think you guys have gone to great lengths to show us the benefits to your community. So thank you. And thank you also to the other stakeholders for being here today. Hector, I had a question for you. Have you read the report that was mentioned by our stakeholders today that was put out by our former arborist?
No, I have not.
You have not? Okay.
No.
Do you have a copy of it, or can you obtain a copy of it before, to what sounds like going to be a continuance of today's meeting?
If it exists, I'll try to obtain a copy.
And maybe if I may ask the Westchester group to send it over, that would be great, and as well as to share for the record, that'd be helpful. I will say for this case and just what I've seen happen on the board traditionally is I know that Streets LA makes every effort to save as many trees as possible. And so that's, I think, if I'm understanding correctly, where you're coming from in terms of today's recommendation, is that upon assessing the trees, that is Streets LA goal.
Yes.
And I just wanted to share that for the record and for everyone here to know that it's not, the recommendation from Streets LA is not inconsistent with what we've been doing at the city. And knowing that they're in a tough place sometimes to balance, multiple priorities. But I think as of recently, especially with the, policies around trees at the city and the priorities around trees, that was what your intent was. That said, there is now disagreement over the health of these trees. And so I definitely agree with the recommendations of President James to put this over. I do think that the language in how we notice this item could be improved because I think traditionally this is not the type of hearing that we're actually used to when it comes to tree removals. And so, and this is very positive, as well as again, seeing your level of organization, but I do think that I agree with your recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner Cloza. So what I would recommend that we do is, I don't hear, would I get a second if I put a motion on the table to go ahead and approve the removal of the 9 trees that do not seem to be in dispute? Okay, so that would be seconded by Commissioner Caloza. Any objection? So we're approving the permit for recommendation number 3.
Let me just double check with our council. I believe that in order for that motion to actually occur, even though there's a second, finding the recommendations on recommendation number 1
Well, I need to,
to be included in that motion.
You don't need to check it. You're right.
Okay.
I can tell you, you're exactly right. So I just did it a little backwards. But so the motion first would be to adopt 1 and 3. Would there be a second on that? Okay, and then that's by Commissioner Caloza. Any objection? Without objection, that'll be the order initially. And then going forward, regarding agenda item number 2, Mr. Benuelos, you'll bring a new board report to the board. Please share it once it's final with representatives from the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association. That does 2 things. One, you can, if the Bureau still wants to recommend the denial, then you've got, your work is already done. But the one thing I want you to add is that an alternative recommendation of removal of the remaining 6 trees will be heard at this, will be considered at this, at the next hearing. So I would just say at this hearing. Is that okay, Mr. Jordan?
Kind of clarify what you're...
Yeah. So I want, we've already cleared 1 and 3. So we don't need to vote on 1 again, or 3. So what you're going to bring is a board report with this that doesn't need to be revised. The issues are here. Even the description is the same. But it would be that the Board of Public Works, the recommendations would be that the Board of Public Works consider one of the following, consider and recommend one of the following. And then 1 would be deny, what you've got written here, deny request for no fee permit to remove 6 Indian laurel fig trees for sidewalk reconstruction. Or, comma, alternatively, grant the request for a no fee permit to remove and I would use so we're talking about the same 6 trees, these 6 Indian laurel fig trees for sidewalk reconstruction that are referenced above in number 1. So that way we're clear that we're talking about the same 6 trees with either alternative.
You could do it that way, or you could more simply just say consideration of permit request to remove 6 trees. The Bureau can make its recommendation known to you. It's not necessary that that Bureau's recommendation be agendized. But you can do it either way.
I want to do it this way because I don't want anybody to argue that now I've taken the denial out of it.
Fair enough.
And the denial existed before, and so...
The only addition then I might have is if since the board will be considering an option that would grant the permit to allow the trees to be removed, then we'll want to include in that separate report the same CEQA finding that we have here, because if the board were to decide to grant the approval to remove those 6 fig trees.
Oh, the vote for number 1 today doesn't get us there.
The vote for number 1 doesn't, that vote covers the trees that we are approving. So we'd want to make that same CEQA determination.
Gotcha. I agree with you. So just so you know, Hector, number 1 will be recreated, the CEQA language. You see that? And then number 2 will be, again, the same language to deny, blah, blah, blah. And then number 3 will be, or in the alternative, to remove the same 6 trees. Okay?
Okay.
And then if you want to send it in draft form over to Dr. Campos, he can work with you to clean it up for final.
Okay, understood.
Great, thank you. For Mr. Duckworth, I'm looking at February 14th. I know it's Valentine's Day. It'll be a busy restaurant day that night, but our agenda looks available that day. Okay. Dr. Campos, is that okay?
February 14th?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the 14 days we're
2
talking
weeks.
about. All right. How about February 12th? I want to have all 5 commissioners here. Okay. Let's try February 10th. Well, do I have everybody on February 10th? Let me just make sure I've got me. I'm here. February 10th? Okay. Mr. Banuelos, February 10th?
Okay, no problem. It's just that I was thinking about another item I believe we have tentatively scheduled for the 10th, but
That's okay. We can do it.
Okay.
Okay? Dr. Campos can work with you on finalizing the language. We're going to have to hear that item. We'll hear that item first that morning. Okay? Thank you, everyone. and our Vice President will, that's the order on number 1. Any issue sending number 1 as amended forthwith? We'll send number 1 as amended forthwith, and our Vice President will wrap up the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for the patience for a few minutes to get myself together. I am Aura Garcia, serving as Vice President and finishing up today's meeting and leading everybody on a good weekend for the rest of this year. Just to confirm, Dr. Campos, we have 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and 5 still open?
5 was already considered, so you have 2, 3, 4 voting items, and then the minutes, and then you have 2 oral reports, 7 and 8.
Okay, and just to confirm, did we close public comment already?
No, you have not.
We still have it open. Okay, I'm going to leave public comment till the very end then. And I will start with I'm going to go with actually number 3. I'm going to take number 3 now. Okay, here we go. So I'll read the board report, and then I know we have a couple of public speaking cards on number 3. No, we just have 1. Okay, here we go. Okay, item number 3. This is a contract termination, Servitech Solutions, Inc., Westside Unit number 3, Series 2, multiple high voltage conversion fiscal year 2016-2017. 1, recommending the board that declares Servitech Solutions, Inc., Servitech to be involuntary default to this contract. 2, terminate the Westside Unit 3 Series to multiple high voltage conversion fiscal year 2017-2017 contract awarded to Servitech. And 3, authorize the Bureaus of Contract Administration and Street Lighting and City Attorney to contact the Guarantee Company of North America, USA, and its attorneys to negotiate project completion. With that said, Ms. Sefi Wiles will be presenting. Thank you.
Good morning, Sefi Wiles, Bureau of Contract Administration. Bureau is requesting the approval on the 3 recommendations. To provide a little background, Servitech Solutions Incorporated is a first-time bidder with California State Contractors C10 electrical license. Was awarded a street lighting contract by this board on March 10, 2017 in the amount of $2,432,764.10. The project consisted of 517 street lights that were converted from high voltage series circuits to low voltage circuitry. And the project was in the area of Eagle Rock, Hollywood Hills, and Century City area. The financing for this project was through the MICLA 2017 Street Lighting Construction Fund 26Y. The notice to proceed was issued on March 24, 2017, and the original contract duration was 412 calendar days, with work to be completed on May 11, 2018. However, in September 2017, Servitech had completed 1% of the street lighting work, while 37% of the contract time had been used. In February 2018, Servitech had completed 12% of the construction, with 77% of the contract time expired. Despite the contractor's inability to diligently prosecute the work, the city continued to work with Servitech in good faith to complete this project. In April 2018, the city met with Servitech, its surety, and attorneys to discuss the lack of progress and a potential default of the contract. Servitech requested a time extension to complete the work by March 31st, 2019. However, The work continued to be sporadic and intermittent, with Servitec not meeting its March 31st, 2019 completion date as agreed. In August of 2019, BCA discovered that Servitec's license was under suspension and subsequently issued a notice of noncompliance to cease work on the project. On August 14, 2019, BSL received Servitec's voluntary termination request letter stating it would no longer be able to meet its contractual obligations. So at that time, the project was, and now is currently 40% complete. An additional 461 days have accrued since the original completion date of May 11, 2018. With that said, Servitec did not meet its contractual obligations by not diligently prosecuting the work and not continuously maintaining a valid California state contractor's license, which are both conditions of the contract. I should state that the license was reinstated in November of 2019. So on November 12th and 14th last year, the city acknowledged the voluntary letter of default and notified Servitec, its surety, and attorneys with the intention to proceed with a default hearing, which brings us to today. Given Servitec's voluntary withdrawal completing the project, BCA requires the board's authority to negotiate the project completion with the surety, and therefore we request those three recommendations to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wiles. I do have a public comment on that, and that is Mr. Sachs. And then if there's anybody else that is here, is there anybody else here for this item? There's nobody here for this item. Yes, I only have it for number 4, though. Do you want to speak on this one, too? Okay, Dr. Campos, can we let that happen also?
I can hand
yes.
a speaker card to Mr. Williams.
Okay.
Thank you. Terrific work. So they didn't have a license for a couple of years. That's being up to date. And I certainly appreciate the amount of work that's going into these situations. The verbiage that you're using now is just over the top. The tree item was 20 years. It started with Ruth Galanter. And who was the councilman or council people in these districts in 2017, 2016 when these were considered or the contracts were awarded? And who was the council people when the projects were considered? Because if the contracts were awarded in 2016, they probably would have been considered maybe in 2014 or 2012. The amount of time, and then on top of everything else, now these people are backing out of this contract, which means it would have to be rebid, which means it'll cost more money. So who will pay the penalty for the increased costs for doing this work that was supposed to have been done in 2018, and now it's going to go out for bid in maybe 2021 or 2020? Who knows? Is there a bid already been put out for somebody to do the work? Who knows? And again, the increased cost, who knows? Well, we know who's going to pay the cost. That's going to be the public. And again, is there a penalty? There's no penalty involved here because these people waited 2 years to have this contract terminated? It just doesn't make sense. You know, if you could go to court if you don't meet the requirements of a contract. You can go to court and be sued because, oh, you haven't met the requirement. But the city has no such luck. All they do is just add to the cost, and the public ends up paying again. It's awfully weird this way. But that's the way it is.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Reyes, you want to come up and speak? Good morning.
Hey, good morning still, Ray. My name is Jeffrey Reyes. I'm the president and owner of Servitec Solutions, Inc. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak at the podium. Approximately 3 years ago, I was at the same podium, excited and cautious at the same time that the wonderful city of LA has awarded my company street lighting projects, valued at over $12 million total. As a small business owner and graduate of the Emerging Business Program hosted by the city of LA, I was thrilled and felt a dream come true of having to work with a city that I loved. A city that I'm a part of as an owner of a piece of LA real estate in the El Serrano neighborhood. A city that has adopted me when it came to this country as an immigrant in 1989 at only 12 years old. This is the best city in the world, as having traveled over 15 countries during my prior military career, I can honestly say that. Now, 3 years later, I'm still excited and still love the same city and residents of this economic engine that is the epicenter of California. The world revolves around us. I'm here today to address the voluntary withdrawal for Bel Air and West Side Unit 3. When that decision was made, it was not made easily. It was with a heavy heart and weeks of sleepless nights. A question that kept lingering on my mind was, how do I turn my back from a city that has raised me? To the board, that decision was a necessary action. It has been challenging to continue to work when invoices are being paid 120 days later, and in some instances, 80% less what was invoiced would be paid in some instances. Staffing changes and contracted bid items self-performed by the city without an official change order are among the things that influenced my decision. I've spent over $1 million in trying to make it work and perform on these projects. I have risked my family's finances in support of these projects. It has also affected my personal relationships with other small business owners that seen my struggle and are now cautious and potentially working with the city. During my military career with the U.S. Navy, I was told to never give up and to continue moving forward, which is why I'm requesting for the City Council to deny my request for voluntary withdrawal and instead terminate the contracts for convenience. Bible verse Genesis 18:27 says, "And Abraham replied, 'Now behold, I have ventured to speak to the Lord, although I am but dust and ashes. From these ashes of failure, I will rise again, and if given a second chance to work with the city of LA, I will be doing things differently.' Please consider my request, and thank you for your time."
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. I think a lot of us feel the same with you as well, so thank you for that. And thank you for giving so much time to the city, that we appreciate you. However, Mrs. Wiles, do you want to kind of address some of the concerns he spoke about?
Okay, so I can speak to, and Mr. Reyes, our city still remains the best city in the world. With respect to the payments, I didn't bring enough handouts, but I've itemized, staff has itemized on the first agenda item number 3 for the West Side Unit 3, there were 12 progress payments made. Per public contract code, all payments are supposed to be paid within 30 days. Our staff turned around these progress payments within a day or two. There were certain reasons that some may have been delayed, case being there were some stop notices with respect to the West Side Unit 3 that perhaps caused delays for the project or for the contractor. With respect to staffing issues, we had 2 inspectors. One of them took ill and therefore was out and could not oversee the project. So with respect to staffing changes, that's normal. And as far as the change orders are concerned, I can let BSL speak to that because we don't oversee the change orders.
Yeah, do we have somebody from BSL here? Hello, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Or is it morning still?
We're still in morning.
Vice President Garcia and commissioners. My name is Robert Tom. I'm a construction engineer for the Bureau of Street Lighting. With respect, just to answer his question with regards to change orders, he was given the plans to do the work. A lot of the changes were requested by him and not by the engineering side. So if there was any change orders, it was requested by him and not engineering. So he was able to do the work per plan if he decided to do it that way.
Okay. And you guys had, before we got to this point, I imagine that you all had multiple conversations, right?
Correct.
So this wasn't something that we went from one day to another. This was a long time in this. Okay. Okay. Any questions, Commissioners? Dr. Davis? Thank you. I think you can say.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure I understood the complainant. You were saying that the reason why you had the most problems is because of the failure to get your payments on time, right?
That is correct. That is one aspect. To give you an example, Mr. Davis, we had an invoice that was outstanding for more than 90 days. And the issue with that was unfortunately, one of the inspectors had an accident. And they were not able to process that invoice because they were not able to verify the work that we previously did, which he kept in his car, that they had no access to. And so for 3 months, we were waiting for
Excuse
payment.
me, hold on one second. Who kept in what car?
It was in the former inspector's vehicle that he got into a car accident with. The records for our job walk. So how the process works is that every month prior to billing, my foreman and the city inspector would walk the site and verify items installed, units installed. And from there, once we come to an agreement, we then submit that invoice to BSL for processing. What happened is the inspector got into a car accident and he was unreachable for more than 3 months while our invoice was sitting in his car.
So let me just be clear. One of our inspectors got
That's
into a car
correct. Yes,
accident,
sir.
And one of our inspectors was missing for how many days?
He wasn't missing. He was in a car accident. So he was unreachable for a period of 3 months in which our invoice was just sitting unprocessed.
Did you contact anybody about this issue?
Yes, sir,
Who
I
did
did.
you contact?
I didn't want to name names. That was not a purpose of my coming here. It's not to point fingers.
Please share with me who you contacted.
Yes, we can do that offline.
Offline?
Did you want? Okay. I did reach out to, at the time, it was Mr. Ken Billups.
Okay. And then when you contacted our office, did you get a response?
Yes, I did get a response, and from the response that I got was a change from the value of our invoice. So if I recall correctly, our invoice was about close to $200,000, and when Mr. Billups approved our invoice, it ended up being $30,000 or $40,000. And the reason was he was not able to re-verify the site walk, and he didn't have any documentation. My rebuttal was, it's not our fault that the person was unreachable or
When you made your contact with our person, did you make them aware that you had not been able to get in contact with the inspector for 3 months?
They're fully aware.
And then did you get any verification from them when talking to them that they were able to obtain the information that had been given to the original inspector who had gotten in the car accident?
No, I did not get no verification that...
So in your discussion with Mr. Brooks or whomever you talked to,
Yes.
they never acknowledged that they were able to get this information?
No. I believe that item is still outstanding. Even today, I have invoices that are more than 6 months unpaid. Change orders that I've done, 100% complete,
In
bought
this
off.
one case, I want to focus on this one case, the conclusion to it after having had a 3-month vacation, if you will, from getting your information to the person you talked to. Was there ever any closure or was there ever any discovery that you made about your information after our inspector came, I guess, back to the table, if you will, after his 3 months?
We did have to go back to the table, and the invoice that we initially processed was less than what we had submitted.
Based upon their findings,
That's
that
correct.
there was no validation on some of the things
That's
that
correct.
the inspector had recorded. So that in and of itself was not necessarily a issue of the inspector, but it was their discovery of what they got from the report. So that there was some quality control issues with your work in that regard. You acknowledge that, right?
I wouldn't say it's quality control over work. are a self-performing electrical contractor. We own our own equipment. We're a self-performing electrical contractor. We don't sub out our work. We have equipment to do it, and I feel very confident into the ability of my staff to complete our projects. We have done a lot for the city of LA, and as you can tell, based on what I'm telling you, is days, months on end without receiving any money.
Were there any other issues other than the 90-day issue where the 3 months was involved? Were there any other issues as it relates to payment that was of concern that you want to discuss?
As I mentioned, I have an invoice right now that is outstanding, that is still unpaid. I would say probably it's 5 to 6 months now.
And you had turned that in to whom?
I had turned that in to inspection.
And they were to get back with you and they did not, is what you're telling me?
That is correct, yes. They, actually, let me rephrase that. I just got a response from this morning. Maybe perhaps they knew I was going to come to the meeting and said that my invoice is being looked at.
Okay, so they just informed
Just this morning.
about a invoice you sent in 5 months ago, 5 to
That's
6
correct.
months ago. You just got informed this morning on your way to this hearing.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so are there any other issues in terms of payment? You've mentioned to me two, and though that would be the 90 days where there was a 3-month vacation on behalf of our inspector because he got in an accident, and after you did finally get the findings from the data he had in his car, it was less than what you felt that had been
That is correct.
contributed to his report. And then secondly, you had, as you've just shared with me, an invoice from 5 months that you just got a response from today.
Today.
So those are 2 instances of payments that have been delayed.
That's correct.
Were there any other instances of which you have concern?
Those are the 2 that I recall.
Okay. And so these 2 incidences alone are the reason for your negative impact on performance.
That is correct. I mean, I am a small business owner. I fund my own projects. My pockets don't go that deep. So every payment counts. And if I'm not getting paid in 90 days, 120 days, I cannot sustain the company. I'm not a Dyna Electric or Select Electric.
Well, let me ask this. On the second example that you gave me from the 5 to 6 months, what do you think was the problem in terms of, were there incomplete reports in terms of your submission in the second instance?
When we first started these projects, everything was running smoothly. There's actually a moment when you first came on board that we were getting paid less than 30 days. It was actually 25 days.
Manner, yes,
right,
sir.
in a timely manner. I think that was the mayor's program.
Yes,
and then as it progressed, it became slower and slower and slower.
Sure, but as it relates to this particular example that we're discussing here today, the second example where it took 5 to 6 months for you to have a response, in fact, you just got it this morning. I'm interested in terms of 5 months ago when you handed in your information to our inspector, is that correct? Or he came out to inspect?
Yes, that's right.
He completed the inspection. Were there some incomplete things that you failed to produce for the inspector? Or?
As far as the work is done, I would say we're probably maybe 90% complete, and we invoiced accordingly. And the system has to be what they call a burn test or accepted by the city. And that burn test occurred, I think maybe a few weeks ago, I should say. Not from our fault.
Did the inspector give you some discussion about what he discovered in his inspection of your work? Did he have a discussion with you about it?
He did.
And he had some concerns, right?
The issue is that after we've installed the system and the LED lights, there was some theft that occurred on one of the locations, and the wire was stolen. So after the wire was stolen, we were informed that, hey, we cannot do a burn test because the wire is gone. And our approach was, we installed it, you witnessed us install it, it's there, it's on the ground, why can't we be compensated? if not 100%, at least come to me with some percentage that you feel
But
is,
he had a discussion with you with what his concerns were about what he was evaluating in terms of your work. He did have a discussion with you about that, right?
sir, I wouldn't call it a discussion. It was more of a 3-sentence email. It was really no phone call
But that's
conversation.
what I'm looking for. There was, in fact, a response.
Yes.
So when you got that response, it indicated what his concern was about his evaluation of your work, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, now, I'm not saying you agree to disagree with it, but you did get a response.
Yes.
So, given the fact that he had a concern, that concern could have contributed to some of his time to get back with you in terms of this case. Now, I don't know if 5 and 6 months was reasonable, and
That's
I don't
correct.
know why you just got a call coming here. But there are some issues here. If these are the only 2 examples that you have of not getting paid, and you got paid, you said, prior to pretty much in a timely manner, correct?
In the beginning.
Yes,
That's probably, I could probably count in my single hand how many times that happened out of the 20 or so invoices that I've sent.
So these 2 instances that occurred alone are the ones that made you have.
That's 2 of the factors. Another issue was that some of the items that we've had have been de-scoped out of our contract without an official change
How
order.
many contracts did you have with us?
4 contracts.
You have 4 contracts. And when we talk about these 2 instances, which of the 4 contracts were these instances involved? The 90 days, which of your contracts was that one? Was it the same contract?
I don't believe so. Not the same contract. Well, let me rephrase that. Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. So which contract was that?
That was the Bel Air project.
I'm sorry.
The Bel Air project.
That's our next item.
Okay, and then, all right. And then one thing, and my final question, and the 5 to 6 months was the Bel Air contract as well?
Yes.
Thanks.
Commissioner, hold on. Question, the copper wire, the wire that was stolen, that was just to clarify that one situation, and I know that's not part of this, but it led to this situation. When that wire was stolen, that was something that you had purchased with the money from your, right? And that was put in,
Right.
and it was stolen by,
I know.
because that's an issue we have all around the city. I'm just trying to make that. Eddie, Mr. Chavez, is that about right, what happened? Or maybe I should ask let me ask PSL. Don't go.
Yes. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I just want to confirm that the wire that was stolen that he had put in was purchased through his, basically his funds, right?
Correct.
And it was stolen because we have an issue all around the city with copper wire theft.
Correct. So whenever we contract a job out, the contractor is responsible to purchase and install all equipment. Correct.
So he was a victim of basically what we're going through as a department.
Yes, he was a part of it. Correct.
And we were not able to provide any type of resolution for that?
We did.
We did or we didn't?
We did.
We did, okay.
Yeah. So he mentioned there's this step in the process called a burn test, which we ride around and make sure our lights are burning, which gives the city functioning system. Okay. Per our specs and agreement, it is the contractor's responsibility to get it all the way to pass the burn test.
Right.
Okay, so that's technically how it works. However, in Mr. Reyes's case, because of his request and us trying to help him along, he replaced the wire once for us, and it was stolen. So we, as a city, decided we weren't going to make any more financial burdens on him, and we decided that we took it over and we replaced the wire ourselves the final time.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to move to Commissioner Calosa.
Thank you, Vice President. If I can ask a few questions to Mr. Reyes, please. Well, first, before I ask you questions, I just wanted to, empathize with your situation, and hearing about your experience on this project is not something that we ever want to see, especially for small businesses, veteran-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. I think you probably have some of those certifications under your belt. And so I definitely wanted to acknowledge that and know you put your heart and soul into trying to make this project work. I just wanted to, I can't hear. Can you confirm, have you ever worked as a subcontractor on any city project previously?
Yes, I have. That's how I started with the city as a subcontractor 5 years ago. It was under a company that went under called Steiny. We had to perform work for them.
And so that gave you some familiarity with the city process and some of the ways in which we administer contracts and payments and such.
Yes, it got my feet wet a little bit, having to perform work with the city of LA as a sub.
And was that work when you're a subcontractor? Was that similar to the project that you won the bids for as the prime?
It was a traffic signal project. So the infrastructure is somewhat the same as far as civil or underground work, civil electrical. So it is directly transferable to the skill sets that are required to perform street lighting to some degree.
Okay. I have more questions specifically for the Bureau of Contract Administration after I ask you maybe one or two more questions, but if you could just elaborate a little bit more, and I'm just trying to understand, because you did mention in your testimony and in your letter too that you found that it was incredibly difficult to work with the city on this project, and that's something that is obviously very hard for us to hear, since we take pride in trying to open up opportunities for small businesses. And sorry, my voice is cracking right now. And that's just something really hard to hear and really hard to read, and something that I will address and ask about to our team after. But can you just, if you can summarize, I know you mentioned some of it in relation to payment. It sounded like you had a positive experience initially because you did go through one of our programs.
Yes, that's correct. I am a graduate of the small business program hosted by the city of LA.
And what year was that, if I may ask?
It was 2016.
2016.
It was actually on the cover of the pamphlet that was sent out. To summarize, I love city of LA. To me, it's a sense of pride having to work and contribute, because I drive through it every day. Some of the items that, as a small business owner, that I have experienced, I would say is mainly the payment. That's critical to cash flow. And I understand that the street lighting projects are in a larger scale. They're about $2.5 million and up. Some small businesses can support that, but not a lot. In my case, I took on 4. My suggestion would be to perhaps shorten the value of those projects, to have more players in the game. Rather than going $2.5 million, perhaps going $500,000 each or $1 million each, so that way it'd be more manageable. I understand that might be a lot of work for city personnel, but I think in that packets, you'll see more participation in a small business. In some people's eyes, a company that can do $2.5 million is not really a small business, right? That's what people perceive, but that's not really the case. So that would be my suggestion. Other than that, it's been an honor. It's been great. I would love to continue to work with the city if given another chance. I really don't have much negative to say.
Okay. Can I ask you a question, Sefi, or somebody from the Bureau of Contract Administration? Thank you, Mr. Reyes. So if we were to move forward today with the recommendation from the Bureau and also the voluntary termination that Servitec is requesting, Would this negatively impact future opportunities for them to be a contractor at the city?
Well, we still have to come back to the board to issue the negotiation change order. So depending on what the negotiation arrangements are, that's to be determined. And I think maybe our city attorney can speak to that.
Okay.
This specific action to declare them to be in a voluntary default, item number 1, item number 2, termination of contract, item number 3, the contacting the surety company to negotiate the project completion, those actions in and of themselves do not prevent Servitec from bidding on and being awarded a contract in the future. This action doesn't prevent them from doing that. Other actions in the city have to be done before a contractor can be legally barred from bidding on the contract. There are other issues that may affect their ability to get such work, but those are business issues between them, their insurance companies, the companies that issue the bonds that allow them to bid, but those don't prevent them from bidding. It's just, from a realistic standpoint, may place some hurdles before them that naturally flow from having a contract be terminated. It would be something that would be reported on the contractor responsibility questionnaire that all contractors submit, where they indicate, what projects they've worked on. Have you ever had a contract terminated? You check yes, you list this. None of those things prevent someone from bidding. It's just information that's disclosed to us, and then we look at it. But when we award contracts to the lowest responsible bidder, having encountered some difficulties in the past, don't make you non-responsive and don't automatically make you non-responsible. Responsibility determinations can be made, but responsibility determination is not before you right now.
Got it.
It's a complicated question, hence my complicated answer.
Thank you for that complication.
So
Go on. I'm not ready to move forward with either 3 or 4. Do you want to keep on asking more questions? Because
I have 2 follow-up questions that
sure.
I'd like to ask.
Let's move that.
Thanks. Steffi, can you I know he went through the small business program. Is there anything in our training for these small businesses that really go in the weeds about how to put together a successful bid package? I know that your program curriculum has changed throughout the years, but it's more I want to ask as background, knowing still that we may continue this item from what the Vice President said, because I think that's one of the complicated parts about bidding for the first time as a prime contractor, at least from what I've seen, is that if you don't put the bid package together appropriately and you don't front load some of the cost, that's also part of the delay in payment.
So I can't speak really to the small business, but however, BCA had taken very great strides to assist Servitec as a first-time bidder with putting together the package with respect to being the lowest bidder and getting the contract. So,
well, he did a good job. He had 4 contracts.
Not 1, but 4, yes. So
the academy works, right?
The other issue,
yeah, Dr. Davis. I think. Hold on. Let me see, Commissioner Calosa. Are you good? Are you finished?
It's fine.
No. Go ahead. Finish your questions.
I just had a point of clarification. So it was revealed in Dr. Calosa's
We just made you a doctor.
questioning that he had some other experiences successfully as a subcontractor. And what now I ask is the scope of work that he did under these 4 contracts the same level of specialty that he did as a subcontractor? Is this the same area of work or is this different? This is Bureau of Street Lighting now, right? Was the work that he had prior in street lighting as well?
I can't speak to that because I don't have his subcontracting information.
We have
If it was,
street lighting here. Can you answer that?
So your prior work was
Come to the mic.
The prior contracts and experience as a subcontractor was under transportation.
I believe it was because it was on Venice Boulevard.
And then this work is under street lighting.
That is correct.
And so it is different kind of work than was obviously transportation in terms of the scope of work and the skills that you had to employ in this job.
I would say it's like solving a math problem, right? Sure. You took your algebra and geometry, and then you move on to calculus, right? So in this case, algebra and geometry, are they different? Of course they are. But are your foundations there to get to that level? Yes. And so in that regard, the work that was performed with street lighting, although it's not exactly the same because no two projects are ever the same, but your foundation and your structure and your skill sets are applicable.
Yes, I know they are applicable, but it's also true that they were different in terms of the scope of work and the talent and the skills that you had to have in street lighting were different than those that you had to display in transportation on that job that you had as a subcontractor.
To some degree, yes.
So in other words, it was not the same work.
However, it was similar in scope.
It was similar in scope. Okay. All right. I just wanted to get some clarification. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any more? Steph? I personally am not ready to make a determination on this, and Dr. Davis also is agreeing with me. I was not briefed on it, so I prefer, Dr. Steph, if you can please brief me on this. And I suggest that we continue it for 1 week until we get briefed on it, and I know more information on it. Dr. Campos?
Yes, Vice President Garcia, this would take you to Friday, February 7th, 2020.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, and if I may add, I would,
yes, it seems like you want to say something.
I would just urge the board to, additional week, get additional information, which the Bureau can provide to you.
Exactly.
However, I think I would urge the board to take action. Right now, these are important projects for a variety of reasons, and right now, nothing can happen.
I know that, but 1 week is not going to change anything.
I agree
and I know in 1 week, the street lighting project's not going to start. So I suggest we get 1 more week so I get briefed on it, and I don't know if anybody else needs to get briefed, but I just need to know more information. Commissioner Calosa?
Yeah, I'm fine with your continuance, but I, was ready to act on it today if needed. I understand that this is a voluntary termination that they're requesting, and it sounds like the Bureau of Contract Administration, and from what I've seen, the Bureau of Street Lighting also agrees with this recommendation in addition to the City Attorney's Office. And, I don't want to also don't want to keep continuing this as well for the small business owner who is here today requesting this termination. But so I just want to put that for the record that I'm ready to act on this today if you wanted to move the item.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner Calosa. I'm not, just because I really didn't get briefed on it. Do you want to say something? The last comment, Mr. Reyes? Unless you want us to completely terminate you, then we'll go for it.
Let me clarify the request on when I first started. It was actually to terminate for convenience rather than a voluntary withdrawal. So that is what I was proposing for the city.
Are you doing that because you want to still remain open to get more contracts in the future?
That's correct.
That's
yes.
what I thought.
Yes.
Okay, so I still want more information. I would prefer a briefing from Street Lighting and from BCA before I can actually feel comfortable with this.
Understood. Thank you.
And that's for number 3. I recommend the same for number 4, unless anybody wants to have a discussion on number 4.
Just for the record.
Yes, Commissioner Villegas?
Sorry, Vice President, I will not be present for February 7th.
You are not going to be here, that's right. How about Monday again? Monday, we're all here on the 10th. I know, that's going to be a long one, but...
You can still have it on the agenda for the 7th, even if I'm not here.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah. I just wanted to be on the record that I will not be here on the 7th.
Are we okay with Commissioner Villegas not being here? Is that going to be an issue?
You will have a quorum on Friday, February 7th if Commissioner Villegas is not here. However, you will not have a full board in the event the board wants to have a split vote. However, if it's unanimous, 4 is sufficient, 3 sufficient to pass an item.
Okay. You want to say something, Mr. Jordan?
No, we'll discuss the matter with Commissioner James, who I assume will be present on that day. And
I imagine he
we
will.
can familiarize him with the record that we've had today so
Yes.
that he will be aware of that record and then any new record that we make on that date.
Exactly. So I would want to move it to the 10th when Commissioner Villegas is here. And we're all here. Does it impact any time by us moving it to the
No,
Monday?
just the additional weekend, 2 additional
Nothing's
days.
going to happen on the weekend anyway. And then we just come on Monday. Okay.
So if your board desires, we can continue this item to Monday, February 10th, 2020.
Yes, please.
This is on item number 3 and then also on item number 4, if I'm doing correctly.
Yes, if everybody's okay with that, I will move forward with, yes, Dr. Davis has a second on that, so 3rd and 4th be moved to February 10th.
Monday, February 10th. Then just for the record, item number 4 is the contract termination to Bel Air Beverly Crest Unit 1 Series to multiple high voltage conversion fiscal year 2016-2017.
Yes, sir. Okay, with that said, we will move that one to, Mr. Sachs, I see that you have an item on number 4. We'll let you speak on that. Hold on, Mr. Sachs. I think I need to close something here.
No. We just heard item number 3, and then unless I'm mistaken, you just acted to continue item number 3.
3 and 4.
I know, but you never opened up number 4.
Okay, so let me open up number 4, and then I'll let Mr. Sachs speak, and then we will close.
If you choose to, there's no required.
Oh, I don't need to?
No, number 4 got continued.
Okay, then number 4 got continued.
Yes.
Can I still let Mr. Sachs speak for his time?
If you want to open number 4 to hear his comment and then close it. But you've already continued it.
Oh, then I have to read the whole thing, right?
It's at your discretion, but technically, number 4 is
I don't want to
no
not
longer
let
before
him speak. That's why. I want to give him the opportunity. So I'm going to read it because I want to let Mr. Sachs the opportunity to speak on number 4, even though we're not going to act on it, Mr. Sachs, and we have postponed it.
You already acted on it. Your acting is worth an Academy Award, ma'am.
Thank you. So let me open it up before you speak on it, because before
Sure, go ahead and
break
open
any
it up.
rules here. This is item number 4, contract termination, Bel Air Beverly Crest Unit 1 Series to multiple high voltage conversion fiscal year 2016 to 2017. This is recommending the board to 1, declare Servitech Solutions, Inc., Servitech to be in voluntary default of this contract. 2, terminate the Bel Air Beverly Crest Unit Number 1 Series to multiple high voltage conversion fiscal year 2016-2017 contract awarded to Servitech. And 3, authorize the Bureaus of Contract Administration and Street Lighting and City Attorney to contact the Guarantee Company of North America and its attorneys to negotiate project completion. Mr. Sachs.
Bravo. So I'm just wondering, because I'm listening to this conversation, it's just marvelous. He wants, the contractor wants to voluntarily default on his contract, but he wants to be available for other bidding. So let's suppose you get this more information and you want to reconsider this item again. What would be the other outcome? That he couldn't voluntarily default on the contract? That he'd have to continue the work that he doesn't want to do? Because you're either going to default on the contract voluntarily or default on the contract involuntarily or continue the work. And if he defaults on he's not defaulting on the contract involuntarily, you're going to make him do the work or not do the work. He doesn't want to do the work. What more? I'm trying to just humor me some more maybe and figure out what more information would you have to get from the contractor to find out if he wants to voluntarily volunteer to default on the contract? Just a matter of the language that you're using. I'm telling you, it's worthy of an Academy Award. They write stuff like this. People get awards for this in the Academy Award for screenplays. You ought to consider it.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. With that, we close number 4. Is that the right terminology? Okay, having said that, I don't think we have any more voting items on the agenda. No, I'm sorry, we do. We have number 2.
We have item number 2, and then you also have approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes. Okay, can we approve, a motion to approve the minutes of, get myself together here, of Friday, January 24th by Commissioner Davis. Thank you very much. And second by Commissioner Villegas. Thank you. So now we'll move on number 2, item number 2. Finally, Mr. Rex. Office of Community Beautification asking the contract amendment to Los Angeles Conservation Corps, recommending the board to 1, authorize the Office of Community Beautification to execute a contract amendment with the Los Angeles Conservation Corps to increase the ceiling limit of the contract by an amount of $100,000. 2, authorize the Bureau of Sanitation to piggyback on the existing contract with the Los Angeles Conservation Corps to fund illegal dumping cleanup services. And 3, authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract amendment for after approval as to form has been obtained by the city attorney. Mr. Rex, and let me double check if I have anything on number 2. I
You should have 1 speaker card from Mr. Sachs.
No, you're passing? Okay, he's passing. All you.
Mr. Sachs passes. Thanks.
No problem.
Good afternoon, Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification, which contracts with various nonprofit community-based organizations to provide cleanup and beautification services throughout the city of Los Angeles. One of the nonprofit contractors is the Los Angeles Conservation Corps, which provides graffiti removal, litter cleanup, alley cleanup, weed abatement, tree maintenance, and bulky item collection, hiring youth and young adults from throughout the city of Los Angeles. The Bureau of Sanitation has obtained an illegal disposal site and cleanup grant from Cal Recycle. These grant funds would be utilized with the Conservation Corps to assist the city's ongoing efforts to remove illegal dumping, assist with community cleanups, and to distribute outreach and informational materials to members of the community. Work performed under this project would occur within the North Central and South LA waste sheds. Therefore, the Bureau of Sanitation has requested authority to piggyback on an existing OCB contract with the Conservation Corps in order to provide funding for these services. Board approval is respectfully and hereby requested to authorize OCB to amend an existing contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rex. Any question? No questions? No, but you're good today. Wow.
All right, thank you.
Anybody second my motion to approve item number 2? Dr. Davis has seconded my motion, so therefore we approve it and move forward forthwith with it. Thank you. Now are we done with all the voting items?
Now you have. Now you just
Thank you, Dr.
items 7
Campos.
and 8 on oral reports.
7 and 8 are our reports. Before we go to that, I'm going to take public comment because I believe we still have that open, right?
That is correct, yes.
And that is Mr. Sachs, please. And then you guys just go. We all have to go. Okay, but you're good me doing this without you here?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. And I do appreciate the work you did on the Academy Award for screenwriting. But if you want to get into the movies and do an epic production, I would suggest you look at the Board of Supervisors meeting from last Tuesday. I believe it was the 27th or 28th. They spent over an hour and a half discussing with the Director of Public Health the coronavirus that has affected one person in Los Angeles County. An hour and a half. It was Ben-Hurish in epic proportion to acting. I'm telling you, you couldn't do better. Gone with the Wind. You name the classics, and it was right up there with them. I'm just hoping they spend as much time discussing what happened to the funds from the Affordable Care Act. That would be important. You know, Governor Newsom just discussed having private insurance companies pay for abortion-related procedures, private insurance companies. I know there's public health agencies. Is there a difference between a private insurance company and a public insurance company? I've never heard of a public insurance company. Oh, in the county of Los Angeles, there's a public insurance company. Who would that be? Who does public insurance? I mean, if you have your own self-employed, you have to have insurance. That's not public insurance. It's only in LA. Back to the classics, though. Star Wars. I'm telling you, you might take a peek at some of their work. They are magnificent. But there's some money to be found there. You know, they spent $500 million on a hospital in cash. They authorized $500 million in cash for a hospital in LA. Where'd they get the money? Where'd they get the cash? Holy shit. Excuse my French.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Dr. Williams?
Good afternoon. Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community, and also member of LA 32 Neighborhood Council Environmental Green Committee, and we're quite concerned regarding the mulch pickup area on Mission, which has been significantly reduced down to maximum of 2 cars can occupy and load at a time. Whereas before we had 3 bins, now we have 1 bin. And that was done this week. So we're quite concerned about, number one, there's no signage as to where the other mulch areas are on that one, so that there is an alternative over on 19th and Humboldt. However, nobody knows about that one because they've all concentrated on the Mission because it was so easy to get to, easy to get into, turn around, load up, and get out. Now, you have to actually stop in the travel lane, reverse into the slots too, and load up, and then come out directly onto the sidewalk. And if it's a large vehicle, maybe extend over the sidewalk while you're loading. I don't know what or who got this one going, but we need a lot more space on Mission. Elsewise, it's a danger to the people using the facility and perhaps to the traveling public on Mission Road. So I'd highly recommend, number one, how long is it going to be? We don't know. Is it a permanent restructuring of that site? If so, please get some signs as to where the alternatives are. And we're quite concerned about that. And, oh, by the way, thank you for last week's recommendation to the tree program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Okay, with that, we close public comment. We have closed it, and now we move to our reports. Numbers, we're gonna go with number 7, which is, hold on, I'm gonna leave number 7 at the end. That way we close with that. Number 8, our personal service contracts. And I have somebody from BOE, Mrs. Cisnon, or Mistress? Mistress Cisnon, come on up. And I have Mr. Tolles and Mr. Wong. 3 of you are presented, perfect. Okay.
Ray Season from Bureau of Engineering, Project Awards Control Division. I'm here to report on our quarterly personal services contract reporting period, October 1 to December 31, 2019. During the reporting period, we have a total of 159 contracts, invoice about 10,298,000. And during the same reporting period, the invoice activities for outreach program is for MBEWB outreach program. We've invoiced 4,831,490, of which 5.7% was invoiced for MBE subconsultants, 4.2% to WBE, and 28.5% to OBE. That translates to 274,480 for MBE, 201,870 for WBE, and 1.379 717 for OBE. For the business inclusion program, which we have 85 contracts, total invoice of 5,117,369 was reported. 15% for MBE, total of 768,938. WBE of 12.2%, 624 and $870. For SBE, 28.9%, 1.479 and $174. For EBE, 20.4%, 1,043,748. DVBE, 1.2% for 58,968, and 8.1% for OBE for 415,000. For our disadvantaged business outreach program, we have a total of 43 contracts. Amount invoiced during the reporting period is 349,403. Total of 6.4% was invoiced for our DBE sub-consultant. Total of 22,524. 8.82 our OBE of 30,669. As part of the Policy 793, we're reporting also for the MBE outreach program awarded for under 150,000. For this period, we don't have any tasks awarded under 150,000 for the MBE WBE program. A total of 4 task order was reported for the business inclusion program, and 1 contract was awarded for the disadvantaged business enterprise. Task awarded for over 150,000. No task was awarded for the MBE WBE outreach program. A total of 5 contracts over 150,000 was reported for business inclusion program. No task was awarded for the disadvantaged business outreach program. Also, as part of the 793 policy, we did not receive any complaints or issues for BAVIN posting of our task order solicitation for a reporting period. Continuing on our new contracts executed for this reporting period, a total of 30 contracts, or total of 56 contract was issued or executed for this reporting period. Contracts that expired for the reporting period, we have about 10 contracts. This is for the Bridge Improvement Program and Civil Engineering support. Contracts expiring for next quarter, which is this current quarter we have 2 contracts. One is for the FSY, which is going to expire on March 22, 2020. And another contract, Turner JGM joint venture, which will expire on February 17, 2020. Amended contracts executed during the reporting period, we have a total of 21 contracts. No contracts amendment unexecuted but approved by the board for this reporting period. For this reporting period, we have a total of 35 negative deviation, of which most of them still have enough time and funds to meet the pledges by the prime consultant. And in the end, last page, the program overview of our activities for all our contracts for MBE, WBE outreach, a total of 33 contracts. We have about 174 tasks, of which a budget of $121,438.63, invoice of $85,733.38. We've achieved 13% for MBE, for $11,340,988, 8% for WBE for 6,684 and 631. Department goal for MBEWBE is 12 and 2. We are meeting that expectation. For the Business Inclusion Program, 85 contracts for a total of 161 tasks, budget of 151,836 and 995, invoice of 51,916 and 961. The achievement that we have for MBE is 18% for 9,339,400. WBE of 12%, 6,023,943. 29% for SBE, 15,033,849. EBE of 10,551 and 501 for 20%. DVBE of about 2% of 824,116. For our disadvantaged business outreach program, 43 contracts. We have a total of 50 tasks, budget of 100,152,895, total invoice of 75,608,865, and our DBE participation is 23% for 17,399,920,000, of which our department goal is 60%. That concludes my.
Any questions? None. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Mr. Toles.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Toles. I'm from the Bureau of Engineering, Wastewater Conveyance Construction Division. I'm here today to present the Bureau's construction order report for the period of October 1st, 2019 to December 31st of 2019. Last time I did this report, there was a series of questions that I thought I'd take a few minutes this time and answer possibly those questions by giving some background on what these contracts are, why we have them. So on November 20th of 2018, the Board of Public Works adopted this supplemental to proposed policy number 793, which requested a quarterly aggregate listing of construction orders issued under the City Engineers Authority, which is $150,000. The report before you includes a list of the construction services contracts that are managed by the Bureau of Engineering, provides the work order, the title, and the issuance date of each construction order issued within the quarter that's under $150,000. Construction services contracts are a contracting vehicle that authorize the Bureau of Engineering staff to use on-call contractors that provide emergency and as-needed services to repair various things throughout the city of Los Angeles. These contracts are typically 5-year term contracts. Since the board is responsible for and has the jurisdiction over design, construction, and maintenance of public space throughout the city, these contracts were driven by short implementation schedules, concerns for public welfare, or unacceptable environmental or social consequences associated with not completing a certain scope of work or project on time. The on-call contractors on these lists have relevant, verifiable public works experience, they have sufficient resources to complete the work, and they have the ability to contract with the city. The on-call list has been an effective and fiscally responsible tool for the city and for the department to protect the public. The way we issue notices to proceed on these contracts, we utilize what we refer to as a construction order. And it's important to differentiate that from a change order. They're not the same thing. Construction order is a document. It typically defines the scope of work. It identifies the project budget, and it identifies how the contractor will be paid. It could be either on a time and materials basis, or it could be on a lump sum approved basis where you have a pre-bid and you agree to the cost ahead of time. These documents are typically signed by the engineer and the senior engineer, so there's 2 signatories on it, and this is done after the contractor accepts to complete the work. The report before you, it provides an aggregate listing of the construction orders under $150,000, and it's broken down by construction service contract. So I'll go ahead and quickly go through these. The first contract we have is the municipal facilities and related projects, which we've issued no construction orders under that contract within the quarter. The next one is the emergency geotechnical/structural contract. We issued 1 construction order under that contract, and the amount for that which the total is noted at the top there is $143,078. The next construction service contract we have is called Street Improvement, and there was no construction orders issued in the quarter for that one. Then we have the emergency storm drain repairs contract. This has a total, we've issued a total of 25 construction orders under this contract, totaling to an amount of $697,200. The next one is the emergency demolition services contract. There was 0 construction orders issued within the quarter. We then have the emergency construction and repair services as wastewater treatment plants. There were 0 construction orders issued within the quarter. And the last one here, which is the reason why I'm doing this report, because this is my division, was with the emergency sewer repairs contract. We issued 315 construction orders totaling an amount of $8,886,160. That concludes the 7 construction services contracts that we have, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have on the report.
Thank you, Mr. Toll. Any questions, commissioners? Anybody else? None at all? Thank you, Mr. Toll. Have a good weekend. Go before we ask. Our third one is Mr. Wong.
Good morning. I'm Ethan Wong with the Bureau of Engineering Construction Management Division. The report before you lists the construction change orders that were issued for under $150,000 by the city engineer during the past quarter, which ran from October 1st to December 31st, 2019. The report lists the change orders by project. A total of 38 projects are listed, for which 114 change orders were issued during that quarter. The aggregate value of those change orders is approximately $775,000. And that concludes my reports. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, Commissioner, I think we're looking over your paperwork right now. Give me one.
Problem.
Give us 1 second. I don't have any questions. Davis doesn't either. Calosa? Nope. You're good to go. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. We're moving forward. We're moving on with Bureau of Sanitation, Ms. Nancy Lanton. There you go. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Nancy Lanton, LA Sanitation and Environment. I'm here to present the quarterly report ending December 31st, 2019. I'll start off with our on-call contracts. For our 24 on-call contracts regarding LA Sanitation's solid resources, wastewater, and stormwater programs, as of December 31st, 2019, LA Sanitation has awarded 101 TOSs, or TOS order solicitations, for a total contract amount of $152.5 million to 21 prime consultants on the on-call list. This includes 38 TOSs that are less than or equal to $150,000 and 63 task orders that are over $150,000. For this reporting period, invoices paid to date under the on-call contracts is $103.5 million. And in regards to subcontractor utilization, the subconsultants' pledge amounts are 26.5% for MBE, 9.1% for WBE, 26.2% SBE, 16.7% EBE, 0.9% DVBE, and 21.3% for OBE. Our second set of on-call contracts are related to our 9 ICSD contracts, which is from our Information Control Systems Division. These on-call contracts are for sanitation's automation and technology projects. These contracts will expire April 8th, 2021. An amendment is being prepared to extend these contracts. The following are the task order solicitation activities since the contracts were executed in April 2016. A total of 17 task orders had been issued and 11 task orders awarded. The total contract amount for the on-calls are $14.8 million with total task order expenditures of $8.9 million. For subconsultant participation, pledged amounts for MBE are 27.1% and achieved is 50.9%. For WBE, Pledged amounts are at 8.2% and achieved are at 32.9%. For SVE, pledged amounts are 0.4% with achieved at 15.6%. And for EBE, 0.1% has been pledged with 0.1% achieved. And the third and final portion of my presentation is our quarterly report summary for our personal services contracts. For this quarter, we have billed $45.2 million for our personal services contracts. Total for contracts with subcontractor participation for our MBE-WEBE program is 11.6, and for our business inclusion program, it's 33.6 million. For our MBE contracts, MBE percentages is 0%, WBE is 7.4%, OBE is 0.7%, with a total of 8.5% or $991,000 under the old MBE-WBE program. In the new business inclusion program, the amounts for MBE are 10.4%, WBE 2.5%, SVE 3.2%, EBE 2.0%, DVBE 0%, and OBE 7.9%, with a total of $7.5 million or 22%. As far as our contracts that are expiring within the next 9 months, sanitation under the solid waste program has one contract that will be renewed. That's for our PAC West American Scale. That contract is expiring on March 16th, 2020. LA San will be exercising a 5-year renewal option contained in this contract. That board report is currently under final review by sanitation. In our stormwater program, we have 2 contracts that are expiring within the next 9 months. One of those contracts will be renewed. That's for Groner and Associates, which is expiring on June 30, 2020. That's for our stormwater public education program. Sanitation will be exercising a 5-year renewal option in this contract. And we have one contract that will not be renewed. That's with Ecology Control Industries, which is expiring August 27, 2020 for fabrication and installation of catch basin inserts and curb opening screen covers. LA San is preparing to distribute a new RFP for those services. For our wastewater contracts, we have 5 contracts that are expiring within the next 9 months. All of those 5 contracts will be renewed. The first one with Myron Electric Construction Corporation, that's expiring March 9th, 2020. That's for our specialized high voltage services for the LA San water reclamation plants and wastewater pumping plants. LA San is preparing an amendment to extend the term of this contract. The second contract is with Hawk Company. That's for our wastewater collection system flow monitoring data. LA San is exercising a 5-year renewal option contained in this contract as well. Third contract we're renewing is for Gatekeeper Systems, expiring May 31st, 2020. It's for our software maintenance and support services for sanitation's automated sanitation truck system. We are exercising a 3-year renewal option contained in the amendment number 4 of this contract. Next one is Conejo Crest Landscaping. That's expiring on September 9th, 2020. That's for our Japanese garden landscape and site services. We are preparing amendment number 2 to extend that contract term for 2 years. And the final one is Geoenvironment, formerly Terralog Technologies, expiring September 27th, 2020. That's for our specialized expert assistance in developing the Terminal Island Renewable Energy Project. LA San is preparing an amendment to extend that contract by 3 years. And finally, we just wanted to address some of our deviation concerns. There are 15 contracts with subcontractor deviation concerns. A majority of these deviations are with the task orders that were awarded under the wastewater on-call contracts that I mentioned earlier. Main reasons for the deviations include sanitation revising the scope of services, and therefore some of the subcontractor goals will not be met. Subcontractors will also be utilized during the later phases of the project. And LA Sanitation staff to perform some of the subcontractor portion of the work, and also contractor overestimated some of the services required of the contractor. And that concludes my quarterly report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Any
Thanks.
questions? Nope. Seeing none. Thank you so much. Can't quite leave right yet, but thank you for your report. And now we're going to Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA, sorry.
Good afternoon. Streets LA has presenting their personal services contracts. We have 8 contracts, and only one of our contracts as a bid participation. The contract with Clean Harbors Environmental that we piggyback on with sanitation. This particular quarter, we have expended $65,513 to them, and $9,794 was awarded to an OBE, representing 14.9%. That's my report.
That's it. Pretty good. Okay, any questions, Commissioner? I think we're looking over the paperwork at this time. I still like the way you do your reports, just have to say that, okay? It's very simple to read. I don't have any questions. Calosa, questions? No? Doesn't seem none. Thank you so much for your report. We accept it. Thank you very much. Can't leave yet either. And lastly, we have BCA, Mrs. Kim. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Executive Staff. My name is Marjorie Manguia, and I'll be reporting today for the Office of Wage Standards in the Bureau of Contract Administration. During this reporting period, which covers the second quarter of fiscal year 2019 through 2020, our office held 10 contracts on the pre-qualified on-call list for various wage standards enforcement and city labor standards projects, which are set to expire in 2022. The amount of $74,056.79 was invoiced during the reporting period, of which $46,147.06 was invoiced against TOS OWS 19-001. This provided targeted door-to-door outreach on the city's minimum wage, paid sick leave, and the Fair Chance Initiative for hiring topics to employers with businesses in the city. The remaining $27,909.73 was invoiced against TOS OWS 20-001, which provided targeted outreach on the same topics to employees and applicants in the city. BCA did not issue or award tasks over $150,000, nor are there any amendments executed or pending. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? None? Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. And we do have a speaker card on this item number 8. I'm going to call his name. Do we still have more time? He still has more time. Mr. Sachs. Mr. Sachs, he's not here. Just for the record, he's gone. Thank you very much. And I'm going to call number 7. There's also a speaker card. Mr. Sachs also put in a speaker card for this. I'm going to call his name just to be thorough. Mr. Sachs, Mr. Sachs, Mr. Sachs, and he is not here. Hope he has a good weekend. And lastly, we are going to end with Streets LA. I think I already put everything away. Mr. Garcia, all right.
I've been waiting for this moment.
So have I. So have all of us. Thank you so much.
Vice President Garcia.
Yeah, there you go, the Garcias.
My first time here, so.
Oh, congratulations. There you go. I know. Okay, give him one. Yeah, we made sure you were the last one.
All right, yeah, I
It
had
was
to
part
clear
of
the room
this.
first, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I am Raul Garcia, Superintendent from the Metro Region, here for Streets of LA. I'm actually here in order to keep the public informed on the upcoming resurfacing projects and to minimize the impact to the community as well as delays to the commuters. Streets LA would like to provide you with an update on all major upcoming streets improvement projects. The following projects are scheduled in the Metro Region. Goes as follows. On Saturday, February 1st, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will be paving 39 streets from Main Street to Figueroa Street in CD9, South Central Neighborhood Council District, pavement preservation program. On Saturday, February 8th to Sunday 9th, we will be profiling on Saturday and paving on Sunday, Main Street from Washington Boulevard to Adams Boulevard in CD9, South Los Angeles neighborhood also. The following projects are scheduled in the Valley resurfacing region on Saturday, February 8th from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We will be profiling Riverside Drive from Fulton Avenue to Woodman Avenue in CD4, Sherman Oaks neighborhood, Council District. Sunday, February 9th, we will be from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We will be resurfacing, paving also Riverside Drive from Fulton Avenue to Woodman Avenue in CD4 also. And the press releases were broadcasted. Work notifications have been issued. The Streets LA has coordinated with the Council District's office to assist the outreach to stakeholders. Also, we coordinate with Los Angeles Department of Transportation for traffic control and assistance. And this concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Any questions, comments? Not at all. You did a good job, Mr. Garcia. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
I'll do better next time, hopefully.
Thank you so much. With that, we are done, right, Mr. Campos?
You have cleared the desk, yes.
We have cleared the desk. We are done. The meeting has been adjourned. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.